I woke up shivering, drenched in a cold sweat, though I hadn't moved an inch. My sheets were tangled around me like a spider's web, the same web I had dreamed of. I was relieved to be awake, yet the fog of sleep still clung to my mind, dragging me back to the horrific imagery of my nightmare. It wasn't just a dream. It was an invasion. It all started with a simple, innocent dream, a walk through the autumn forest. The leaves cracked beneath my feet, and the air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. But then, as I rounded a familiar bend in the path, the colors began to shift. The vibrant hues of fall blurred into a murky, oppressive gray. The once playful breeze turned into a dense, stifling fog. That's when I saw it. A massive web stretched across the path, glistening in a ghostly light that seemed to emanate from nowhere. The web was intricate, its silken strands weaving a complex pattern that seemed to shift and pulse with a life of its own. Each strand was delicate, yet unnervingly strong, as though it could ensnare anything that dared to approach. I tried to turn back, but the forest had changed. The trees were tall now, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. The fog thickened, and my steps grew heavier, as if the ground itself was reluctant to let me pass. Panic began to set in as I noticed the walls of fog closing in, narrowing my escape. And then I saw it. It emerged from the shadows, a creature of nightmare and nightmare's offspring. The spider was enormous, its body as large as a horse. Its legs were long and spindly, each one ending in barbed tips that scraped against the web. The creature's eyes were the worst, 8 of them, gleaming like black pearls, all focused on me with an intelligence that was both alien and unsettling. The spider moved gracefully across the web, its movements almost hypnotic. It was as if the web and the spider were one, single entity, created to ensnare and consume. My heart raced as I tried to step back, but my feet felt glued to the ground, as if the very earth was conspiring to keep me in place. The spider's legs tapped rhythmically against the web, each tap sending vibrations through the strands. It was a grotesque symphony of dread, one that resonated deep within my bones. I could feel the vibration of each tap, a gnawing premonition that the spider was closing in on me, methodically, deliberately. I wanted to scream, but no sound escaped from my lips. My breaths came in shallow, frantic bursts, and I could feel the fog pressing against my chest, constricting my ability to breathe. The spider's eyes remained locked on me, its gaze unblinking, almost as if it were feeding off my fear. As it approached, I saw its mandibles twitching, and I realized this wasn't just a physical threat. It was a psychological one. The spider was toying with me, reveling in my terror. I could feel its malevolent intent, a dark presence that seemed to seep into my very soul. It was no longer just a creature in a dream. It was an embodiment of my deepest fears. I struggled to move, but the spider was already upon me. Its legs brushed against my skin, and I could feel the cold, clammy touch of its body. I shivered uncontrollably, every fiber of my being screaming in terror. The spider's mandibles hovered near my face, and I could see the glistening fangs, each one sharp and deadly. I shut my eyes tightly, trying to wake up, to escape this nightmarish reality. But when I opened them, the spider was still there, its eyes gawking into mine with an almost sadistic pleasure. The web was now pressing against my skin, its strands digging into me like 1,000 tiny needles. The spider began to weave, and with each movement, the web tightened around me. The strands wrapped around my limbs, pulling me closer to this creature. I could feel the web constricting, each layer of silk adding to the oppressive weight. The sensation was unbearable, claustrophobic embrace that threatened to crush me. Desperation surged through me, and I tried to struggle against the web, but it was no use. The more I fought, the tighter it became. I could feel the spider's breath on my skin, its mandibles tracing a path along my face. It was a slow, deliberate dance of fear and domination. And then, just to that thought I could bear no more, the dream shifted. The forest dissolved into darkness, and I found myself alone in a vast, empty space. The web was gone, but the spider remained, hovering in the void like a dark star. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and I could feel its gaze penetrating every corner of my mind. The darkness pressed in on me, and I could feel my sanity unraveling. The spider's presence was all-encompassing, a dark, oppressive force that filled the void with its malignant energy. I tried to move, but it was as if I was trapped in a stasis, unable to escape the spider's haunting influence. The darkness seemed to stretch on forever, and I could feel the spider's eyes following me, never letting me out of its sight. It was as if I was being hunted by an unseen predator, a creature that thrived on fear and despair. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel the cold sweat trickling down my back. Finally, with a jolt, I woke up. I sat up in bed, my breath coming in ragged gasps, my heart racing. The room was dark and silent, but the fear still lingered, a tangible presence that refused to let go. The spider's eyes were still with me, a haunting reminder of the nightmare that had invaded my sleep. I tried to tell myself it was just a dream, but the fear was too real, too visceral. The spider's presence seemed to cling onto me, like a shadow that refused to fade. I could still feel its eyes on me, its gaze penetrating my very soul. I don't know if I'll ever be able to shake the feeling of those 8 eyes watching me, or the oppressive weight of the web tightening around me. I'm afraid to sleep. I'm afraid to enter the realm of dreams where the spider waits, ready to weave its dark web once more. Each night, as I lay down to sleep, I can't help but wonder if the spider is waiting for me, lurking in the shadows of my subconscious. The fear is always there, a constant companion that haunts me every night. The dream has become a part of me, a nightmare that refuses to let me go.